Welcome to the Dispensary Live. How you guys doing? Welcome, Brandon, Nikki.
Hello.
Here we
Thursday.
are. So we got a lot of new changes. We have a lot going on. Like, I don't even know how we're going to fill all this into this time segments. It's going to be crazy. There's so much. It's so exciting. What's new with you guys?
It is. It is a lot of exciting stuff. Everything's new. We know that.
Everything is new.
Everything's old, new, borrowed in between.
Well, our podcast set is under construction, so we're going to be doing these virtually, number one, right? Like, so we're going to be in these virtual sets until our new place is set up, which will take us into our new store outline. Nick, you want to give us a rundown of how many stores and where we're looking?
Good luck. I mean, we have Kakana eventually here happening. We will be moving our Appleton store down 3 stores or so in the same area. We have Janesville coming online, and we're looking at 3 in the Cleveland, Ohio area right now, and possibly another one in Virginia.
In Colonial Heights, Virginia.
Yeah. It's a game plan right now.
On top of
we have
that,
3 different locations on the east side of Cleveland. Hopefully they all go through. First one will be in Minard. Hopefully I said that correctly for those people in Ohio that aren't listening to us yet.
Right. We're going to get them. We're going to capture. We're going to go after Ohio. We're even going to tag Ohio.
We got VA here. Just a straight shout out to VA right now. Appreciate the shout out.
Well, we got VA, PA on. We've got some special guests tonight too. We have Callum.
Yeah. Do you want to run down the episode today? You can at least tell other people what we're here
preview.
All right. So running through the episode, we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. So that's the intro. All right. We're going to go over that. Then we're going to talk about upcoming events. We're going to touch base on that. Then we're going to take a little bit of a break. Just a quick commercial that B is going to throw in there. And then we're going to talk weed responsibly in the middle section. And then we're going to come back and we're going to have some US Roundtable talk. US Hemp Round Table is going to be fun because we have not only our Hemp for Heroes lobbyist, but our in-house fantastic attorney. He's bailed us out of a bunch of different shit. We can talk about some of those stories, how it's played out. And he's fantastic. He's vicious. And we're happy to have him. He's going to be
he's up on the US Hemp Round Table with us.
He is. He's going in April. We are going to Washington, D.C. to try and make sure that our industry thrives. We're not going there. Well, we'll get into it on the round table.
Yeah, because our next podcast will have to be from D.C. if we keep it at the same Thursday, because we will all be there.
Really cool.
Callum will be. So.
Oh, yeah. We're going to try and grab a U.S. senator or two and see if we can get him to sit down with us.
Hopefully legally.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll just kidnap one and make him sit down.
Yeah.
Hopefully legally.
So outside of stores, we have a print shop that's officially going to be coming online pretty soon too. .com exclusive. So that's going to be something really cool. Expect to see some swag, some opportunities for the stores to have a chance to even sell certain merch or custom merch to the print shop. It's not the print shop. It's .com exclusive.
Jason, we got a little bit outside of the box there and named it something new.
But so then outside of that, what else do we have going on? Brandon, we've got a golf outing that you and the team have spent a lot of time on already.
We got 420 coming up.
Yep. We have 420.
I'll throw this thing up right now. I can elaborate on the golf outing a little bit. We went to, this is just another attempt. We were on Channel 5 this morning, announced it. This is our attempt to give back to the community through the cannabis industry, which we repeatedly have been doing, showing something maybe we could take to the US Hemp Round Table that you can use this industry to support things. In this case, veterans. In other case, we could do a bunch of, last year we did cancer. And I don't know what we'll do again, but we got the car show as well. But this is a golf outing to give back to veterans, yes.
Well, it's community involvement is what it is. And we really want to do something for the communities. And we want to be able to support more than things. We want to be able to support not only the community, but we also want to support the community of which supports us, right? Like, we're not a good business if we're not intricately involved with our communities and actually following true to what we stand for. And even today, I was in one of a facility in a town that we're not setting a business up in. But one of the owners of the building actually asked us, they said, Well, everybody who sells product like yours they don't make their own products. They all have like the same stuff on the shelves. And we were like, that's what makes us different. That's why we like to know and be able to educate. And that's what our staff does an excellent job of educating people who don't know anything about this industry and the benefits that come with it. Not only do we have like the quality that comes with it, but the education platform. 2 days ago, I had someone with an autoimmune deficiency hit me up personally. They were a combat veteran, and it's a long story, but they were like, hey, the VA has given me all sorts of crappy meds that aren't making me feel good as a person. And they want to utilize our products to try and work with that. So we're working with them to get a testimony, and maybe that person will choose to give a testimony and maybe bring something to us. But Nikki and Brandon both can attest that people with MS, Parkinson's, sleep cancer. If we start focusing on not only the quality, but what we're doing in the community, these community involvement events are the basis of how do we talk and work with our community. So not only do they know we're there, but also we start building that rapport. And I think the golf outing, then we've got the car show. I'm going to transition car show, right? It's going to be our second annual, right? If Blake's going to watch, annual, not inaugural.
That was my fault the first time, I think.
I think we all learned something on that, so we're good.
Yeah, on that day, we all learned something that day.
And what are we doing with the car show? So every county across America has what's called a veteran service office. And that's where veterans go for all different types of support. And then there's like what they call an emergency fund. And this emergency fund is, so that's a good comment. Sorry, I lost cue on that. I was reading a comment and I was laughing. But these veteran service offices have the opportunity in these emergency funds for veterans that are in need or have to go to clinics or hospitals. They can get gas money. They can get hotels. It's that really immediate, it's that very internal immediate. And I want to say internal because it's specifically to the veterans in the counties. And when you can make an impact to the veterans in the counties that we operate all of our businesses in, and we want to start focusing on that over the years to come, but working with the Veteran Service Office, one, that's a federal organization. And Nikki, previous government, working with federal organizations for what we are and who we are, to have an opportunity to not only give proceeds to those organizations, but to line up with federal organizations. That's a phenomenal movement in the community. And we can do that in all the communities across the nation that we start working in. And that, so big picture, like it's a really good, awesome thing. And the opportunity to know that we're helping someone immediately and it's not going to some big fund that's not making a direct impact to a veteran. So I think that that's a big plus.
I did that. I said that summed it up on Channel 5. I was like, I feel like I come in here for the past few months just talking about what we're doing in the community and education and just spreading education is what we do. So like this community involvement, that's what this is overall for us, I think.
But even the ties that we have, like Nikki, the three of us have talked about those ties. Like what do we have? Even the NFL Locker Room Live, like the first three letters there, right? NFL Locker Room Live. Like we're tied to an organization that's trusting us to be a sponsor, to be there and be involved with them. And that community engagement, because a lot of people support the NFL. Well, also, if you support the NFL, NBA, pro sports across the segment, let's be real. They have some players that like to utilize our products.
The guys keep hitting me up from the herd. I think they want to try to get us those tickets again. Because if anyone doesn't know who's out there, we did try to work with our local G League. And we could say all this, right? We tried to work with the local G League team around in Wisconsin, and they're tied directly to the NBA. And they're trying
NBA said no.
NBA said no. Yeah, we were a little bit too much for them.
Considering how much they utilize in the NBA, and they have for quite some time without testing, it is very surprising.
That's some crazy stuff. So outside of all the stores, all the community events coming up,
420.
And 420. Have we finalized 420?
It's still going to be on 420.
It is still going to be on 420. By the way, we also couldn't say 420 today on the news. We had to say April 20th or the 20th of April, which was hard to do, actually.
Can't you be like, oh, look at the time, it's 4:20?
I know, right?
But
Okay.
I know, yeah. So we had to bounce around that today, but yeah,
Nikki,
it's finalized.
Yeah, okay. So we have to finalize the 420 stuff yet? It's not out, the promos?
I mean, Brandon gave me some cool swag today on my desk. I'm pretty sure I can hurt somebody with the ashtray.
They're all Will might have one with him. So here's a sneak peek. Anybody looking? If you guys come into the store on 420, this is just.
I mean, these are heavy duty things. I could hit someone with it.
Those are custom ashtrays right there. Those
I asked Brandon who uses ashtrays.
And then we have the
who uses ashtrays. I'm gonna get Tyler and Jason on here in a minute and be like, do you guys have like an ashtray you use here and there? Like, and they're gonna probably be like, yeah, I have something that, or maybe not. Jason,
I have a crazy idea. Nikki might yell at me, but like on the back of some of these trays, like I want to get something like glued on the back where it's like a gift card or something. Like, so if you purchase a tray from us, that's a dispensary tray, like you have a chance to win like a gift card.
Well, it'd have to be more hidden than that because you can see it.
Okay. We'll give that
a little sneak peek right there because people don't know.
I have to think that through a little bit more.
Yeah, people won't know. You come to the shop, spend $100 while supplies last. You get one of these swag bags. They are full of, I think, cool stuff. I got good feedback from the people that got stuff. And then, of course, we're throwing one little curveball in there. You guys want to announce the diamonds and sauce?
Ooh.
Yeah, but I still think it's something. I think we have to like hide a number or something. 420 can be on the back of it, and then you win.
I got one here. I got someone says, Steven says magnet covers for the trays and put them in them. These trays are biodegradable, just so you guys know, so you can put them in the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they won't be, you can't put a magnet on them. We'd have to get like a slippy top.
Will Rose here.
I'm glad someone enjoys my one-man comedy show of messiness. So thank you.
Who doesn't want to get baked with Nikki though? See, it'd
be more fun if Nikki was baked, but we wouldn't accomplish much. We all know that. I would giggle the entire time.
So what are some other other changes? We're going to be pushing social media. We're actually talking about. Do we want to talk about some of the changes and what we're going to be looking for in social media?
Let's wait till we actually have some concrete stuff on there, Will.
Okay. Yeah, we're having another meeting on some of the changes. You will see transformations from stores to getting some extra support. Like we've got a lot of changes up and coming.
Yep, we're definitely in a growth phase, and that means that we have to grow and adapt and change with it.
Yeah, a lot of different changes, and it's exciting. It's also turbulent. Jason and several people, even today, someone asked me, they're like, you guys, especially towards Nikki and I, apparently we're more edgy. So we apologize. We're not trying to be edgy.
Well, it is tax season. I have an excuse.
It is. Nobody likes
it. It's the growth stuff we've been through.
I don't remember the last time we were in the same place for more than a week. So.
I know, right? So those are big up-and-coming events. So coming back after the break, we're going to have Brandon, Jason, Tyler. So we're going to have some PA and some VA representation. And you guys are going to be talking about weeding responsibly. And then after that, stay tuned because then you get a chance to talk and ask questions to our attorney, what he has seen already, not only on the lobbyist side, all sorts of hemp laws, especially in Virginia. So Tyler, if you have a chance or, you want to ask some questions from the VA crew or the VA crew has a lot of questions, Callum will be there.
I think we should also maybe talk a little bit about the Second Amendment and cannabis that I sent you an article on recently too.
Yeah, that is a good article. That is a very good thing. Mm-hmm. That's going across a lot of states. I mean, that's a federal thing.
States are trying to make their own laws now to prevent that from happening because our founding fathers, a lot of them used live cannabis. I don't think that was their intent, but we'll get into that more later.
Well, isn't it weird? You can have alcohol, which has proven statistically increase violence, and you can have a firearm, but you can't have weed.
Well, you can have prescription meds. I don't want me out there on Ambien with a gun either. That's not a good idea. I wake up and roam places. So.
Well, Preach.
But, all right. Well, we look forward to seeing you guys. Make sure you weed responsibly. You guys have a kick-ass section, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Perfect.
Ugh. And dang it. Just need a good smoke after a long day. Whoa. What is this?
I see. Dang.
fellas? We are back.
What's going on?
That was amazing. That was an amazing.
Stop that. That's JB Ice is gonna give me so much crap for that because I aired that video again, and it just God, I need to smoke after a long day. It's terrible.
If that's not the truth, that's not the truth, though, right?
It's true. Welcome to the fellas. Appreciate you guys being here. We are at the second segment of us. We got
Weed
Jason
responsibly.
and Weeding Responsibly. Jason and Tyler, welcome. You guys want to introduce yourself a little bit for the people?
Well, my name is Jason. I am a regional manager for the state of Pennsylvania in the dispensary, and hopefully opening up Ohio here very shortly.
I'm Tyler. I'm the general manager of the Fredericksburg store in Virginia, but don't worry about just coming to us. Anybody in Virginia or any location's got you covered.
Amen.
Beautiful. Amen. We got Weed Responsibly. I got a couple articles for you guys. Just kind of want to break it down, what you think about them, and get some feedback. So this is current events. Anybody who's watching, feel free to leave your comments, say some stuff, ask some questions. But just going off some things we found on some local current events for cannabis. Don't know if you guys read about this. William always talks about this, testing, weeding responsibly. I wanted to know about some from you guys what you tell customers when you're in here about this topic here, like for testing. Someone comes in and's like, "Am I going to pop for this?"
Well, I think that the short answer to that is absolutely. Yeah. I mean, every one of the studies we went through just for this podcast, like, reiterates that fact that, you can test positive in a blood test up to like as soon as 3 minutes after consumption. So you smoke and then 3 minutes later, blood tests are already positive and popping off positive. But one of the cool things about all these research and tests is that the blood test is actually one of the closer forms to a test that they have to actually figure out your intoxication level, because sometimes up to after an hour, they're seeing a big decrease in the available THC in your bloodstream versus like a urine or hair follicle test that can last up to 30, 60, or even 90 days, depending on the testing.
And I think that hits to that question too. A lot of people ask me, well, what if I just do an edible or if I do a tincture? And I'm like, it's still going to pop you positive. You're still going to end up getting that. I like you said, I think the simple answer is yes, you're going to pop positive no matter what. I always think it's tricky though. And I don't know if I really saw this in there when I was kind of skimming through it, but I also believe it kind of it depends on your tolerance. I know it talks about like your weight and things like that, but there is, I honestly believe, a difference between a new consumer and I guess how much they consume and how quickly versus somebody who has been doing this for quite a while. And I guess their tolerance built up,
So when it boils itself down in all the research trials and everything like that, a new user, someone that has like just, we'll call it a joint or a marijuana cigarette as the researchers call it. A new user that has consumed one marijuana cigarette one time, it will last in their system anywhere from like 4 to 8 days. Now, if you're a habitual user and you're using 3 to 4 times a week, that can last up to 30 to 60 days. So there is a direct correlation to how much you're consuming and how long it's staying in your system. And we all know that THC is a fat soluble compound. So it stores itself in your fat cells. So the higher your body mass index, like the more fat you have on your body, the longer THC can be present in your system. And things like exercising can help speed up the process of your body excrementing it. But at the same time, like if you exercise right before a drug test, it can lead to a positive result, even if you were going to have a negative one, because you've destroyed those fat cells and released more THC into your bloodstream.
Well, since we're kind of talking about that, my bad if I jumped in on Brandon, but like I want to bring up that old kind of that old theory that if you eat too many poppy seeds, that you're still going to pop up on that too. Is it? So could I say I was working out really heavily and ate a poppy seed bagel and just my bad?
I mean, I I couldn't speak to the poppy seed bagel, but I mean, this is a naturally occurring thing in the world. So, I mean, there is ways to get it into your system. Like the hair follicle test is very jaded in this regard too, because your hair follicles can show positive testing just because you were around someone that was consuming THC. You didn't even have to necessarily consume it yourself to pop a positive test in that regard. So, I mean, anything's realistically possible. And that's honestly really why us at the dispensary, we push so hard for that weed responsibly, because it really does need to be just the same thought process as alcohol when it comes down to it. Is like, one, you should be consuming and driving. That's just a dangerous compound. Like, your reaction times are slowed. I don't care how much of a senior vet you are at consuming. Your reaction time is slowed down, man. So you got to be safe. You got to make sure you're doing appropriate activities and not putting anybody else in danger, because that's like the last thing we want to do is, put others in danger based on choices that we've made, right? So that's why we stand behind that saying, weed responsibly. Start low, go slow. Understand your dosage. Don't overdo it. No one wants to green out and get themselves sick and waste an entire evening just pass out on the couch, not being productive or even enjoying a good show or a video game, depending on what you like to do. But, that's just why we love to stand behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I know Will has talked about this bunch, about trying to be a part of the testing and like trying to help law enforcement and whatever it is that they're, however we can, like a proper way to figure out if you can catch if somebody has been smoking or driving at that time, like with a breathalyzer, which is what this thing I think was trying to get to. This article.
Yeah, there's a couple universities that are putting a lot of money into that breathalyzer technology for THC, but we're not quite there yet. And when it really boils itself down, I think that would be a huge benefit to both our industry and law enforcement, because if you can understand the psychoactive effect that THC has on you and the longevity of when the psychoactive effect is actually affecting you, then you can get on with your life and figure out how to, drive, work, do whatever you need to do and still consume, where we're kind of in the dark ages with the testing facility of it now, because you can consume today and then I can get up tomorrow afternoon and be driving to work and get pulled over. And if they decide to give me a urine test, I can still test positive and that can still be a DUI, even though I am no longer under the influence of the psychoactive effects of THC. So I think that would
tough. That's tough.
Yeah,
it's like a daily
really
thing.
tough.
You ever be driving and just be like, man, I didn't even smoke today, but if I get pulled over and drug tested, I'll probably get fucked or screwed. Sorry.
Honestly, my paranoia does kick in on that sometimes. Where you're like, I have nothing in the car, I'm stone sober, but I could still technically get it DUI because I have my love handles are a little bit too big. I put on the extra pounds, so that THC is just storing for later dates, baby.
Dad bod, man. Some dad bod now.
For sure.
Well, I love that the company supports that too. Like I notice a lot, and we talk about that a lot in the podcast, that the company is so behind on like the legalization of everything, the research on how to get behind it and finding safe consumers. Like I think that's a big thing, especially with having good product, is we're not just here to get you the product. We're here to actually get you information and get you safe on that, which is nice.
Dude, I hear it all the time. I don't work corners all the time, but a few times I have been up there and I've had the question like, so well, is this going to make me pop on a drug test? It's like, yeah, dude. Usually, sometimes they're just like, okay, don't matter, just go along. They just go along with the purchase. But yeah, they do. That question does come up a lot. So if anybody's wondering out there who's watching, a lot of our products, unless it's in CBD isolate containing no THC, and it would take a lot of broad spec too, I think, or full spec. I'm sorry.
It would take a lot
to actually pop that test, but always potential. We always err on the side of safety, caution, read responsibly.
Yeah, and that's the responsible aspect of it. Is like the answer to that is yes, you are going to test positive after consuming our products, like you said, Brandon, outside of the pure CBD aspect. But I mean, for someone smoking cannabis for the first time, the test may detect for about 3 days after you consume. For someone who smokes cannabis 3 to 4 times a week, your window is now 5 to 7 days of a blood test. And like we were talking about earlier, the blood test really is a better indicator to law enforcement for your level of intoxication, because the THC does exit your bloodstream a lot faster and store in your fat cells quicker than that. So the blood test kind of really can determine if you are still intoxicated, because it is a much shorter window of testability for THC in that regard. Like where you're kind of SOL when it comes to your urine test being like, that's gonna be hot for a good 30-day minimum if you're a habitual user.
Be responsible. Know your time limits, time frames. I'm going to bring this up. I already brought it up before, but we're going to hit this question. We should consider real live rosin. Diamonds and Sauce doesn't have the minors. What do you guys think about that?
I think it'd be a great idea. I'll say from the stores aspect, we get asked a lot for it. It's definitely popular since we're closer to the capital. People like to get a little bit extreme, but kind of just stick to cannabis. And I think live resin would be a nice introduction, nice change to a few things.
I personally would absolutely love to see some live resins come through, regardless of if we want to put it in a cartridge, a dab. I mean, whatever live resin you want to start sending down the pipeline would be greatly appreciated in my book. I think it just really,
does not matter.
It's just really an elevated product when you really boil it down. It's a lot smoother in every regard. Like it's our cold pressed hash, I think, is pretty awesome in those regards to being almost like a live resin. Just it's all in the testing phase and the extraction phase on how we're going to be able to actually extract live resin versus a distillate like we're doing.
Nice. Seems like good. Something people want. Something we could look at.
Well, I mean, it would really, like a live resin cartridge would realistically, like, in my mind, kind of take over an entire subcategory of our cartridge section as it is. Like Ibna would produce itself out to be the number one in its category, and we would have a whole nother live resin category, depending on what terpene profile we wanted to go with on that.
Ooh. I think you're just letting us know we are working on the THCA diamonds currently. As people know, you get sneak peeks in here. Exclusive looks, early access to things.
I'm a big dabber. THCA is by far, like, that's just my baby, especially for being a heavy consumer. That just made me very excited. So VA, you heard it. Get excited. We're ready to put it.
I mean, I think, especially with the THCA products, it is leaps and bounds above other products we've had in the past. Like the hash, the crumble, the butter, they're all like, they got me back into concentrates. I took a solid break away from concentrates for a hot minute there, but though I just absolutely love the way our crumble tastes and the ease of use with it. Basically plug and play, baby.
So scrumptious. So good. Well, we got a couple minutes, guys. I'm gonna kick over the other article, something we can hit on. This is something that was, I don't know how we feel about it, but this is basically saying, this article, to sum it up, that they want to have a state-run testing facility, basically secondary check other public, or I guess you should say private, I guess, in this
I think
business.
If you keep it to a secondary check, then I'd be all for that.
Right.
If it's to take over the industry and make it state mandated testing on that, then I think that I'd have to actually read through the legislation that they put out to make that mandate, to see what other kind of crazy stuff they try to sneak in there on that. Because, I mean, I like living in Pennsylvania, like the state runs the liquor control board. So to buy a bottle of booze, you have to go to a state-run liquor store. So, I mean, there's both benefit and negative to it. Like the benefit is we don't pay a necessities tax because of that. Clothing, groceries, there's no tax on that as a necessity because the state gets all the profit from the liquor control board. On the other end of that is, a lot tighter on your personal consumption use. Like after 4:00 on a Sunday, you're not getting it. After 2:00 in the morning, you're not getting it, even in a bar. There are no after hours places that are legitimate. So realistically, it's a win and a lose depending on how they write the legislation on it, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely see it being tricky because I'm already thinking about, like, are they going to do, like, one, getting backed up, two, can you only test this amount at this time? Like, I see a lot of slowdown for the process. I do agree in testing, though. I think that's a big thing, especially to know what you're getting and having proof of it. But having state-run testing, that's another thing too, is the quality. Does every state hold up that same quality standard, or are some of them more about, let's go ahead and just get it through the door? So I think you touched the base. So if there was some more detail, like kind of something across the board, it would definitely work out. But I do see a little bit some issues with it if it happens.
Issues. I do said Nikki just put in the comment here. It's like any state-run thing for me. I immediately just think of the DMV and like just madness. There's always this kind of no one likes to go there, but like it just is.
There is no state-run organization that's efficient. I mean, I live in Pennsylvania and we deal with PennDOT all the time. They've been working on the same road construction for the past 8 years. So, like,
that's what I was saying.
Are they going to speed up the testing process, or are we going to grind it to a halt with that?
Yeah, I agree. More testing. I think we all agree on testing is a great thing. Definitely,
Absolutely.
We get secondary, but state by state, it can get real messy.
It does go a little bit in some chat. Obviously, the challenges and things like that. Here we are fans of regulation. I think just the right regulation. When they bring up the state-run facilities, and it just, to me, it always goes back. The money goes back, and the resources go back to the people that we don't necessarily want to handle our resources and money anymore, is what I hear a lot, at least in the political game, which I totally am not a fan of, but that's what we hear. Any other thoughts, fellas? We're coming up to 30 minutes here about any of these topics. If not, we could run a little thing here. We're going to kick it over to the other guys at the US Hemp Round Table section.
I would just leave it with, be responsible with your consumption. Be safe with your purchases. Know where you're getting your product from. Have it be a responsible, reliable source with testing involved. If it's from us, fantastic. Even if it's from someone else, please know where you're getting it from. Weed responsibly, and don't overdo it. Start low, go slow.
Tyler, any closing remarks? Weed responsible.
If anything, too, don't be afraid to come inside the store. Please ask questions. All the staff is there to help you. Everybody is extremely friendly. We'll help you out with everything. Again, start low, go slow. Don't feel like you need to be the big dog on the block. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Check us out, Virginia, Pennsylvania, everything on the East Coast. Find us on the websites, YouTube, all good stuff, Instagram, everything, Twitter. We have it all. Find us, follow us. It's great.
Appreciate you guys. Stick around. Stick around.
Welcome to the largest hemp-derived cannabinoid dispensary in the nation. The dispensary specializes in alternative and hemp-derived products outside of traditional marijuana, such as Delta-8 and Delta-10 THC and THCP. All you need is an ID. No medical card required.
The dispensary is important to not just me, but hundreds of people in the community. They come to us almost daily for assistance with sleep, anxiety, all sorts of ailments that cannabis helps them with.
With daily deals, the dispensary helps you get the best benefits for your buck. The dispensary, bringing comfort and quality through education, one cannabinoid at a time.
Berkeley Media Studies professor, Marina.
And welcome
back to the dispensary live, guys. I greened out during the break.
You got me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone could hear me. I just wanted to support their weed responsibly thing and green out. Plus, I really wanted to do something with my hair. But welcome back, guys.
Well, welcome, Callum. This is Callum's first appearance with us.
It is.
So you want to start with Callum talking about himself for a second, or?
Absolutely. He's a really good attorney, so I think he can do better than a second.
Yeah, the trouble is getting me to shut up. That'll be the real problem. But yeah, glad joining everybody. So Callum Welsh is my name, and doing a little bit of everything, solving problems that other people can't seem to solve for themselves. Because, well, I deal with a lot of government agents, like we were talking about, so that tends to be the issue is cleaning up other messes. But yeah, so I have a practice, but do a lot of my work in the industry. Lucky enough to have happened on meeting Will, Nikki, also Mr. Henderson himself, and glad to get to meet all of you folks. Takes me all over the place, especially right now where it seems like every 2 minutes you've got a completely different understanding and circumstances of what the substantive law is anywhere you find yourself, even city to city, and sometimes even within a city. But it's a good problem to have because at least things are moving. It's a lot better than just it being your grandfather's marijuana cigarette, that wacky weed.
Callum, question for you. What made you, after meeting with Nikki, Mr. Henderson, and myself, what made you want to jump and actually follow suit to even pursue the legality in this industry?
Our craziness.
Well, yeah, besides that, and you guys just having your heads on the right direction, or at least the same I have, and the same kind of screws loose, is really just the eye on the ball. I think a lot of it is too much of the industry and everything has been scattershot, and being reactive to what folks who don't really have any sort of understanding, and even piggybacking off of weed responsibly. So for instance, in Virginia here, state lab doesn't even have the capability of testing a lot of marijuana products, be it actual flower, be it synthetics or derivatives, edibles, you name it. They're just we don't know what to do with it. We're going to outsource it anyway. And so the fact that it's what we want is it to be responsible so people know what we have access to, what we're putting on our bodies, and it's actually let's stop acting like it's the 1930s, and get a focus on what majority of Americans support, especially in a day and age where you've got all the things every day. It's opioid crisis, we got Purdue Pharma, all of that's going on, and somehow we're still here with something that is plant derived and has been around since the advent of time. That even though somebody misquotes it a lot, even Thomas Jefferson up in Monticello was growing hemp on. Somehow it's still a Schedule 1, and you can push a lot of these other things. So having the eye on, we want to expand this, get access to it, and do it the right way, was something I got really excited and to get on board with. And hell, it's against all odds. It's moving forward in the right direction, and I think it continues to be that way if more folks start catching on to, live here.
So Callum, one of the questions up there with the 21 plus, and I think people are confused in Virginia where the laws are at on medical and or recreational and even our products. What do you see on the legal side and your intricacy that you've been now reaching in through? Can you break that down for our Virginia people?
Yeah, so it's funny because Virginia decriminalized but didn't really legalize. And so it's a lot of one of those kind of sort of the way DC has it, where you can have it, but the federal government won't allow it. And even though they're starting to move towards, subsidizing a lot of cyclobin and other kind of studies for psychoactive things, which I think is right. You can have it, but you can't buy it. You can't sell it. And they're trying to close some of the gift loopholes. And they're certainly breaking down. And part of the reclassification was, a lot of it's not scientifically accurate, but by redefining what, cannabidiol is or cannabinoids, it sort of falls into a catch-all. But individuals over 21, it is legal to, and it's literally this, possess up to 4 plants. So you can grow it at home. You can't buy the seeds, but if you happen to have them, you can grow it at home. You can possess it. You can smoke it in your own home. You can even smoke it outside, but it's a $25 civil penalty. FYI, on your front porch is still in public. So just be mindful of that, folks. But what is not allowed is to sell or distribute anything without having a license under what's essentially a medical facility. So there's only 5 districts, and those only allow up to 5 pharmaceutical distribution sites. That's what's going to get you kind of into trouble. So the short answer is, when will you be able to buy? We will see. There is a bill on the governor's desk. We're waiting until April, coming up on the 8th, for him to act after they killed, and that's how stupid the politics are, after they killed essentially the hopes of us bringing some DC teams to Virginia. It looks like him signing off on that is by the wayside. He has said he's not signing it. He hasn't said he's going to veto it, but we'll wait to see whether the actual legalization and retail sales is going forward. Really, it's just a whole lot of hurry up and wait. But ostensibly speaking, if it looks like weed and it smells like weed, they can't stop you for it, but you can't sell something that looks like it. So buying, that depends. But that doesn't stop anything like, well, I'll put it this way. Mail is protected by the Fourth Amendment. Govern yourselves accordingly with that.
Very well said. That's very political.
Brings us into amendments. Do we want to talk about the Second Amendment one right now?
Ooh, we can. Well, yeah, open up the door on the Second Amendment real quick, because this is federal. This is, I'm sure,
there's
you're all over this.
out there that they want to stop cannabis users from possessing or buying guns because they're saying that it's an intoxicant, and they're saying that we're not entitled to Second Amendment rights if you're a cannabis user.
Which is pretty wild, considering if you look at, if you want to use kind of the originalist argument, which is a lot of what's going on currently in the Supreme Court, completely backwards from what was going on. Those late 1700s were some wild times. It certainly has no foundation in that. And the whole thing of shall not be infringed, whichever way you fall on it, kind of cuts that way. It's the same thing, just again, using Virginia here where I'm based, is you can't have both. You can have a medical marijuana card, but then you can't have, for instance, a concealed carry card, or purchase a firearm, be around firearms, because if you're either addicted or you medical marijuana card, it's full stop. You can't do it.
What about your prescription medications, though? Like, let's banter on this. So wait a second. I can take diazepam, Percocet, oxycodone, and carry a firearm legally.
Yep.
Or even stronger, trazodone. There's, ketamine.
And I can operate a vehicle, right? Like, even though on the bottle it says don't operate heavy equipment, they still
that just means backhoes.
Because my question is, who can go out, even if you drive a Prius, can you go out to the parking lot and lift your Prius?
Yeah, and that's exactly the same thing, and it gets partly back to, do we really want to regulate it the same way? Might make sense in Virginia, where I think ABC's now looking at about $110 million shortfall in the budget over the next 2 years. So you could imagine there'd probably be a world where you can make up some of that tax revenue. Now, I think the people who actually operate the business and have been at risk and let's just be completely honest, frankly, oppressed for years and years, trying to get it going, deserve a little bit more of that. But yeah, with the Second Amendment, it's completely backwards. I mean, even just to use an example, there was this whole instance that some people may know about in Newport News, where a 6-year-old ends up with his mom's gun, brings it to school, ends up shooting his teacher. That's not what she got the most jail time on. It was the fact that she had a firearm and was a user of marijuana. That's what got her time in federal prison. And if that sounds like it doesn't make absolutely any sense whatsoever, that's because, frankly, it doesn't. But that's where it's touchy again, where even now I think we've got Secretary Yellen saying we should probably figure out a way where banks can actually deal with legal companies state by state. And that's where I think if there's going to be any sort of action, leave it to the states, fine. But a constitutional right should trump something than just a legislative action, because that's a pretty clear will of the people. And I just don't see any real support in it. And people are coming around, even I think Pennsylvania up y'all's way. I think even there's a prosecutor somewhere up there who's like, full stop. I'm a user of it. There's no support in the law. So
different states are trying to make laws too. Like Colorado definitely has one of the books now to allow people to have their concealed carry and possess guns and still utilize cannabis.
Well, where's the cutoff point, right? So if you're a felon, you can't possess a firearm, you can't vote. Well, wait, because you use cannabis, now you are in the ranks of being a felon. Does that mean they're going to take away voting rights too because you're a cannabis user? Like, where does that stop? When you start infringing upon those constitutional rights just based off certain products, like, where does that stop then? We're opening a door that is, they talk about gateway. That's a gateway. Maybe.
And I think a lot of it is just the same. It's lack of education, and it's a lot of assumptions from some of these folks. I believe there was some kind of publication, since there's a lot of back and forth in Virginia on the lobbying side of things with a lot of law enforcement entities. And I think what they came up with is that somehow marijuana use is potentially more addictive than even alcohol use. I would love to see where they're getting those numbers from, because that doesn't make any sort of sense. But it's also backwards to not be providing the kind of resources and equipment. And as too many people well know, even if it is legal, that doesn't mean they're not going to come in and try to seize all of it and hold it, because they don't have the testing resources. They can't test. They don't know the difference. They don't know what it is. All they've been trained on is, pretty much the 1950s of like, well, that's that wacky weed. We can't have any of that around our kids. And that continues to be a theme where it's like, well, we can agree. We probably don't want things that are going to be somehow psychoactively harmful falling into the hands of children. It's like, well, that's an easy solution. Let's actually get this out, regulate it, label it. We can solve it. Pretending it doesn't exist hasn't been doing anybody any good. But I just read that and I was like, we got to educate some of these people a little bit better, because I think if they knew, that problem goes away.
Well, and that leads to this question. There was a good question by Miss Irene. What steps should customers take if they encounter legal issues related to the possession? Now, in Wisconsin, much like even in Virginia, possession laws now are really falling apart. But THCA flower, Callum, you work firsthand on THCA flower versus marijuana. And what would we want to recommend? Because as a company, we've told customers, keep it in a bag, keep the receipt on it, take it home. Goes back to the middle segment, weed responsibly. But if they encounter problems as an attorney, like you don't want your client, and I guess I'm going to be preemptuous. Fuck it, I'm not going to, I can't say the word apparently right now. Preemptuous.
Presumptuous?
Yeah.
Here it is. Got it. Landed. Getting into
I'm not good with words, but I like to talk.
Shit. Going into that, what would you want your client to do? Just take the citation on the side of the road, easier to fight, saying that, hey, you bought it at this store. This is what it is. Or do you want them to be a street attorney and try and argue it on the side of the road with the cop?
Well, even if you're a fully licensed attorney, it's generally a bad idea to argue. That's not where you don't have the home field advantage. You're in a situation where you're pretty much at the mercy of somebody who's doing the best they can with the resources they have, which oftentimes at the best of times are somewhat lacking. Now, at all times, it's pretty good to, my legal advice is they can't hold it against you. If you don't say it, you've got those rights. Know your rights. I don't think it should be the obligation of folks in a stressful situation to have to know everything, maintain a calm demeanor, and ensure somebody else is. But at the end of the day, these are those kind of situations where it's kind of going to meet you with the same energy. If you're cool enough to try to explain that, it's going to look a lot better than on, what on earth are you squirreling away? But that's where it's helpful to have these things. And especially if you go to a reputable place like the dispensary, if you have things where I know this has come. I know we've got certificates of analysis. I know I can, trace this back. I know that this is compliant with whatever these local regulations. And if somebody doesn't understand that, that's where you can keep it. So if you run into issues with that, I always just say, be aware ahead of time, know everything, take steps like, okay, what happens if I run into that situation? Because ultimately, then when it does, the best thing you can do is like, I've done everything I could right there. I'm going to walk away and wait for somebody who, can walk in and then can't quite be have the situation escalate if I do have to explain myself to somebody in a black robe. So to answer the question is absolutely, if you run into that, keep those receipts, keep those things on you. Don't give away information that you don't necessarily have to, but certainly don't try to lecture at somebody or escalate a situation that doesn't need to be made more than it is, especially since a majority of, America and most people, even in the law enforcement community, are like, why are we wasting our time on this?
Right. And that's huge. We speak with many law enforcement agencies and they're like, we don't care. We just want this either legalized because we don't want to tie up the court system. But that moves us onto what we're trying to do and what we've got coming up in April. Next month, we're going to be in Washington, D.C. with the US Hemp Round Table, as now all of us will be there representing and being on the US Hemp Round Table. Callum, I know I've been watching a lot of email traffic. Nikki, you have too. You've been reaching out to the Hemp Round Table even more actively than Nikki and I. What do you want to prepare us for? What do you think we're going to gain out of this? And what do you see happening in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting because it continues to gain traction. And it's it's still kind of a scattershot thing, but I think it's going to be great because it's kind of addressing not quite grassroots, but what the Hemp Round Table is, for folks who don't already know, is essentially like a trade organization. So it's a coalition of places like yours truly, all of us here, and other industry stakeholders who come together. But what the Hemp Round Table is it comes up by membership. All right, what are our priorities? Where do we want to move forward? What things can we agree on? What legislative actions do we want to support or oppose? So veto the bill in Florida, support the bill in Virginia, take some action to make sure that we're giving proper guidance to entities when they ask things, for instance, testimony on the Hill. But what I'm excited about in DC is we actually get in and sit down. So for instance, we know some folks trying to sit down with senators, representatives from Virginia. Wisconsin team wants to sit down with representatives from Wisconsin. It is solely focused at this fly-in event coming up on the April the 17th, is just sitting with the legislature. And that's kind of where their target focus is, because those are the folks who pass the law, get in there. But that's, again, by a consensus basis. Each of the individual stakeholders then still have their own sometimes agenda. Everybody's on the same page, but it's kind of trying to get away so we have all the path forward, so it's not losing focus by being disorganized. Because on the other side of things, membership, for instance, in CANRA, it is only regulators, government entities, and largely people who are enforcing things. And enforcement doesn't tend to compute with, let's make this more accessible. It says, let's take this away or limit it. And so that's what's exciting, is hearing another voice of, here are the real constituents, here are the real people, and here are these people in your community, Senator, who are actually working to make this more accessible, more reasonable, and kind of be the tide that raises all ships. So we're not still chasing our tails and wondering, like, hey, what can I do in my state? Depends.
Yeah, we've got to get them to buy in. How much we support in sales tax revenue, what we support in employment, what we bring to the communities with it being legalized, and get our legislative representatives to go along with it and get a buy-in. So.
And what we prevent, like if we do it the right way and don't have ridiculous tax amounts, we actually take a weed substance off the streets that we don't know what's in it. In the middle segment, they talked about testing and weeding responsibly. Well, yeah. And then there's parents that are like, oh, well, I don't want my kid to smoke weed. Well, if your kid's going to smoke weed, would you rather have it from a facility where it's tested, or would you rather have something off the street where fentanyl is still on a major increase across the nation? And as we jump into it, that's, I think when we get to DC, education. And for our viewers, Callum, Nikki and I have emphasized, Brandon, across the boards, the whole team has emphasized, we're not going there to represent our brand. We're going there to actually represent the industry as a whole. Because if we can have a structured industry across the nation where it's not different in every state, or where it's protected, and you, Callum, being on the front of that and having this, opportunity for us to be there and try and take the helm of an industry to make it something so it's a normal commodity across America that is regulated just like alcohol. And I think that's what we want to go there. For our viewers, we'd love to hear other hot topics that you think we should bring up to some of these senators, because there's so many thousands of them, but our time there is even restricted with the availability of who we get to talk to. But we have
Especially
to be
with
clear.
being across 5 states, we have to try to talk to 5 different representatives. So
yeah, and that goes into our cry, and we push back, and it is a cry out now, because if we go there and Callum, Nikki, myself, we can say, hey, we have 1 million followers. This is the part where we actually need not only the stores, we need our customers to be able to give us that traction to when we go to DC or we're talking to a representative somewhere, we say, hey, we have 1.5 million followers that are going to hear what we're going to put out. We need to push that now, because the people who write the paychecks for the people that we have to negotiate with are the people who are using the products. We could be part of that grassroots, as Callum mentioned, but grassroots is when we do that, a lot of times we team up with people who are like, yeah, let's have this legal. We're missing the people that are on the fence, that miss the education, and we're missing the people that say no. And what attorneys do in a courtroom, they are going against the maybes and the no's every day. They're in there because of the laws where someone said, no, you can't do that, and this is why. And Callum has to go in there, or his partner, Nick, for Welch Wright, an advertisement for the firm. But going into that, they have to deal with the no's and the maybes. And as an industry right now, and it goes even to the medical. Someone posted a question earlier about medical equals addiction. No, medical cards are even given to people under the age of 18 because it benefits them in a true way. But then if they're going to get a medical card, then they can't get a firearm ever in their life. It's sort of like ADHD medication and not being able to join the military. And now they're changing that again. Like, well, if you have ADHD medication, it's okay to be in the military. And all these different no's and maybes are what our goal is. And for our viewers, listeners, stores, this is that cry out. And we've talked about media and marketing. It's not that we want to be viral. It's that we need to be a voice right now. And collectively, we can't focus on the people. We need the people that are fully supportive of this product to like, follow, and share right now. So we have those viewers on hand so we can go to the no's and the maybes. And that's the next breaking point. When we say in the very beginning that we have a lot of upcoming stuff changing, it's because what we're trying to do, not even about our company, but for the industry across the nation. We've said it from the very, very beginning that we want to make a difference. It started out, we wanted to make a difference for veterans. We wanted to have like good CBD products. Then we got into the hemp-derived THC and even the micro businesses of what we're looking at. But the 1,000 customers we have a day, out of the 980 of them, or whatever that percentage is, that are using it to either deal with their anxiety or to be able to relax at the end of the day or go to sleep or from the surgery they had or from the joint pain ailments issues. People who use cannabis use it for their own reasons, right? And we always say everybody is different because every body is different. That's fair. But we need you guys to like, follow, and share because we need the clout now to be able to protect that industry. Otherwise, the government is going to overrun it. And just like in Wisconsin, for our Wisconsin viewers, they just saw something come up where they wanted to run 5 state-run dispensaries. And going back to Nikki's comment on state-run, and they only wanted THC to be in a little capsule. That was it. They wanted it to be an edible capsule, and that was the only form of THC. That was their negotiation on it. That, of course, got kicked out. And all of our viewers that do support cannabis, they don't want to take a little capsule. That's not the way they want to do it. And when we look at it and the chances that we have right now as not only a company, but as a nation to make a difference on something, much like prohibition and alcohol, this is our chance.
Yeah, I was trying to share a link because you can go onto the US Round Table website, and there's a place in there where you can look at the federal actions and state actions, and it gives you a place to click on Take Action, where you can send something directly to a legislative representative too.
Yeah, and that's always definitely a good start, and it's good to have that access. But I talk about this all the time, especially with them, because deep down, even the politicians are still real people, but they're insular. It's, like when you only have a few people on your feed on, I guess it's X now, still Twitter to me. You don't hear that much else, and so you don't think about that much else. The support is there, the people are there, and even on the daily basis, even the folks on the Hill who haven't, even driven themselves for 30 years, they still know these people. They interact with them every single day. They just don't hear it because everybody isn't on the same page being active, and they're not hearing it from the people who really support us and are in the communities, because it's not just not getting to the right people that they know. They're all there. So getting active, letting it know. Everybody's got a circle, a lot of overlap. So the more and more everyone gets on the same page and just shares it, that's where it empowers. Once you actually get a foot in the door, and I'm able to do that, get aggressive and explain politely, but like changing the no's you're going to hear and understanding you're going to get the no's, because then you get through to the maybes. And at least even if they're the no's, they're like, okay, well, I learned a little bit of something today. Maybe the next time I'm going to think a little bit differently about that. And that's the way you can actually be effectively aggressive, which is not just being obstinate, but here's the information, do with it what you want, but the information is out there. Senator, you need to know it. And that's how it happens. It's just the majority of everyone supports it for a good reason. We just got to get folks listening. And so we just got to be targeted, and it just takes everybody getting active.
Ladies, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. We're going to have everybody jump in. We're going to sign off. We need that social media push up and coming on our webpage. We are going to have the links directly for this. We're going to be updating our webpage, so you can go to our webpage. Brandon and the team are going to be making sure that there's places to start blowing up, not only the roundtable to make a difference. And then once Callum actually has people, the senators that we're going to be meeting with or legislation that we're going to be meeting with, we're going to get those names up there so you all can start just dumping and overloading their inboxes. That may not make the difference, but when we come into their office, at least they'll know people are listening to us before we even get into those offices. So we're looking for your help here. We need your help right here. If we want
it's
this.
going to take all of us. Yep.
Yep. Speaking of all of us, I think everybody's jumping back in. Oh, we got Jay back. Look at that, Jay Bird.
Ooh, Tyler, Brandon.
We got Virginia. We got B.
It's the Brady Bunch, sort of.
Totally Brady Bunch style.
This is one scary Brady Bunch here.
Let's all point to each other.
This is a rated R version of Brady Bunch.
Oh yeah, look at this. We appreciate everybody for coming in today, watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share, do everything like that.
Check out the US Roundtable web links that are posted.
Callum, welcome to the zoo. Hopefully, I think you're going to do just fine with these animals. I think we're going to be all right. And we thank everybody for taking the time to watch this. And you guys have a kick-ass day.
Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.